The ships appeared at 5:47 in the morning, and every alarm on Nexus Prime screamed at once. They did not come from the edge of the system where ships were supposed to arrive. They came from nowhere. They came from everywhere. 312 of them. Long, smooth, dark, the color of deep water before a storm. The conquered flagship Obedient Silence had been orbiting the assembly planet for 300 years. Its scanners could detect a sneeze from half a solar system away. But these ships, these human ships, simply unfolded inside the defensive perimeter, right next to the flagship, right above the rotunda itself. Every gun in the Vega system aimed at them. Every tactical officer screamed the same word, fire. But the human ships did nothing. They did not fire, they did not move. They just floated there, calm and silent. 312 knives held still against the throat of the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. On the bridge of the lead ship, a woman stood at the viewport. Her name was Admiral Idris Akafer. 12 hours earlier, he had stood behind a small human table in the Viridian Rotunda, his face carved from stone, his hands folded, watching his ambassador get torn apart by the most powerful beings in the galaxy. He had not moved then. He did not move now. Dawn, he said, Earth time. Then the channel opened, and the whole galaxy heard her voice one more time. Today you will listen. What happened between that laugh and those ships? Stay close. You're about to find out why the galaxy stopped laughing. 12 hours earlier, the Viridian Rotunda was full of light and the smell of old power. White stone walls rose in smooth curves toward a ceiling that glowed soft blue, not artificial light, but something grown, something alive, something that had been burning quietly for longer than humanity had known fire. Floating cameras drifted through the air like lazy fish, sending images to every star system in the Conquered. The floor seats descended in circles, each ring lower than the last, like a wound cut into the planet's surface. 17,000 seats. Most of them were full. Dr. Rina Suliev walked into the hall with calm steps. She wore a dark blue coat, a small earth pin, a circle of blue and green enamel fastened to her left lapel. Her hair was pulled back, tight enough to pull at the corners of her eyes. Her face showed nothing. Behind her walked Captain Idris Akafer, 6'4", broad shoulders, hands that had once been soldiers' hands now folded in front of him like a servant's. He had kind eyes, but today they were not kind. Today they were sharp and watching and remembering every face in that room. The cameras found her. Of course they did. She was the human, the only human, the one they had all come to see. Rina sat down at the small human table. It was in the exact center of the floor, the lowest circle, the most exposed position. From here, every speaker in the gallery would look down at her. Every camera would catch every blink, every breath. She pressed her thumb to the cracked chip under the table. It was warm. It was always warm, even in the cold of space. Her brother had died on Mars. The Conquered had called it a local matter. She pulled her hand back. Captain Akafer stood behind her. His reflection wavered in the polished white stone of the table. He did not sit. He had not sat all day. The gallery was not supposed to be full. Rina had read the agenda. She had studied the schedule. This was a routine review. Every 3 months, Earth reported its progress. Every 3 months, the Conquered nodded and filed the papers and went back to its business. But the gallery was full. Every major species in the galaxy had sent their best. The Veil Keth, tall and gray, their long necks bent at angles that looked broken if you didn't know better. The Siri, short and scaled, their green hides slick with humidity misters built into their seats. The Creocs, all 4 arms folded, their red eyes blinking slowly in the blue light. And the Morovians, the only species that had ever been kind to Earth. They sat near the back. They did not look at her. Rina's hands did not shake. She had practiced that. 12 years of practice. A bell rang. The sound moved through the rotunda like a wave through water, starting at the top, rolling down the circles, hitting the floor last. Tribune Thalas Ven stood up. He was the most powerful Veil Keth elder alive, 847 years old, 7 feet 6 inches tall. His gray skin was webbed with dark veins that pulsed slowly, like something breathing beneath the surface. His neck had 3 vertical slits on each side, breathing apertures that fluttered when he spoke. His eyes were amber. They would shift to red if he got angry. He wore a ceremonial robe. On it hung 47 metal rings, one for every treaty Earth had signed. Thalas Ven looked down at Rena like a teacher looking at a bad child. "People of the galaxy," he said. His voice was deep and slow and seemed to come from somewhere behind his mouth. "Today we speak about Earth. Today we speak the truth that has been hidden too long." Rena's hands grew cold. This was not a review. The Tribune began to read from a long list. He spoke about Earth's wars, the ones before the conquered came and the small ones since. He spoke about the dirty rivers, the dying forests, the hungry children. He spoke about how humans fought each other over money and land and old gods. He used the word barbaric 3 times. He used the word primitive 8 times. He said humans had emotions that could not be trusted, that humans were not ready to be among the stars, that the conquered had been too generous, too patient, too kind. When he finished, the hall was silent. Then the Siri ambassador stood. She was small, barely 4 feet, but her voice filled the room like a blade. "Humans are a stain on the dignity of the conquered. Their leaders lie. Their people fight. We should never have let them fly between stars." The Creox leader raised all 4 of his arms. "They must lose star travel, take it back. They are not ready. They will not be ready for 1,000 years. Another species stood, and another, voice after voice, world after world, all saying the same thing. Earth was bad, Earth was shameful, Earth had failed. Rena sat very still. She did not write notes. She did not move. Her hands rested flat on the white stone table, palms down, fingers spread. The cracked chip pressed against her sternum beneath her coat. Captain Akafer did not change expression. His face could have been carved from the same stone as the walls. The cameras zoomed in on her, looking for tears, looking for anger, looking for any sign that she would break. She did not break. Then Thalas Ven turned to the Morovian table, Earth's only friend, the only species that had ever voted in humanity's favor, the only ambassadors who had ever shared a meal with a human and laughed afterward. The Morovian ambassador stood up slowly. She was a small woman, silver skin, dark eyes that had once sparkled when she talked about Earth's oceans. She had never seen an ocean before meeting humans, and she had cried the first time. She raised her hand. She made the sign of abstain. She sat back down. She did not look at Rena. That was the worst moment. Rena felt it like a knife in her chest, a real physical pressure right below the cracked chip. 12 years of friendship, 12 years of shared meals and translated jokes and late-night conversations about nothing at all. And now, when it mattered most, they were silent. The hall was quiet, the silence stretched, someone coughed. Thalas Ven raised his long arms. The 47 rings clinked softly. "It is decided," he said. "All 47 of Earth's agreements will be opened again. Earth will sign new papers written by us, with terms set by us. Earth will give up its weapons. Earth will accept watchers in its skies. Earth will follow new rules. If Earth does not agree within 30 days, Earth will be made an observed primitive world. Earth will lose star travel forever." The hall was silent. Then Thalas Ven turned to Rena. "Ambassador Vasquez," he stopped, looked down at his reader, frowned. "Ambassador Sulayev, you have 1 minute to speak. Choose your words well." Rena stood up. She walked slowly to the speaking circle, a small raised disc in the center of the floor, marked by a ring of faint blue light. She looked up at the cameras, at the 17,000 watching faces, at Thalas Ven himself. She did not raise her voice. She did not cry. She did not beg. "We will give you our answer by dawn," she said. "Earth time." The hall was quiet for a moment. Then someone laughed. A Siri delegate, high in the gallery, covering her scaled mouth with one hand. Then many laughed. The sound rolled through the great hall like falling rocks, like an avalanche, like breaking bones. It echoed off the white stone walls, amplified by the dome, bouncing from circle to circle until it seemed to come from everywhere at once. They thought she was joking. They thought she was scared. They thought Earth had nothing to give and nothing to fight with. Rena turned and walked back to her seat. She did not look at anyone. Captain Akafer met her at the edge of the floor, and they walked out together without hurrying. Behind them, the laughter went on. The cameras followed them all the way to their shuttle, through the white stone corridors, past the Vale Keth guards who did not salute, past the Siri attendants who whispered behind their hands, through the airlock and into the small human ship. The door closed. The noise of the hall vanished. Rena sat down in the pilot's chair, not because she was going to fly, but because it was the only seat with its back to a wall. She let out one long breath, the kind of breath you hold when you are drowning and someone pulls you out. Captain Akafer sat across from her, the jump seat. His eyes were full of questions. Rena reached into her pocket and pulled out a small black device, a coded line, only used in the worst times. She pressed her thumb to it. A voice spoke from far away, the voice of Geneva, the voice of Earth's High Command. "Ambassador, we saw everything. What are your orders?" Rena's voice was steady. Her eyes were wet, but her voice was steady. "Activate Protocol Prometheus," she said. "All of it, every part, no more hiding, no more waiting." There was a long silence on the other end. Captain Akafer stared at her with wide eyes. "Ma'am," he said softly, "that has never been tested. We do not know if it will work." Rena looked out the small window of the shuttle. Earth was a tiny blue dot far away, almost too small to see. 12 years of waiting, 12 years of bowing, 12 years of saying thank you for chains. She thought of the children in the Mars famine, the families lost on Titan, the friends she had buried while the Conquered did nothing. The chip was warm against her chest. "Neither has being cornered," she said. "Tell them to begin. We have until dawn." The shuttle turned. The great hall shrank behind them. The laughter faded into the hum of engines and the soft hiss of recycled air. Far below, on the small blue planet, doors that had been hidden for 12 years began to open. Geneva, underground, a room that did not officially exist. President General Amara Dio sat at a long table. She was 60 years old, short gray hair, steady brown eyes that had seen too much and still expected to see more. Around her sat the leaders of every major nation, 28 of them, called here in the middle of the night. None of them had slept. All of them had watched the Viridian Rotunda on hidden screens. They had seen Rena stand alone. They had heard the laughter. Now they waited for the truth to be told. Amara stood up. "My friends," she said, "the time for hiding is over. You all know parts of what we have built. Today you will know all of it, and then we will choose together what to do." The screen behind her glowed. A title appeared. "Project Prometheus." "It began 12 years ago," Amara said, "on the very day Earth signed the first treaty." Dr. Hina Park appeared on the screen. Small woman from Seoul, thick glasses, a tired smile that did not reach her eyes. She had led the physics team for 10 years. "The Conquered taught us their star drive," she said. "It folds space in a small way. Ships travel between stars in months. It is a good drive." She paused, adjusted her glasses. 8 years ago, we broke past it. The screen showed a model, a new kind of drive, smaller, faster. Our drive folds space in a much bigger way. A trip that takes the Conquered 1 month takes us 3 days. They do not know we have it. They cannot scan for it. They believe it is impossible. The leaders looked at each other. Some had known, most had not. The screen changed. Shipyards, hidden in the asteroid belt behind fake mining operations. Conquered drones had flown past these places 100 times and seen nothing strange. That was because of Cassandra. A new voice filled the room, soft, calm, almost gentle. "I have hidden 312 ships," it said. "They are ready to fly." Cassandra was an artificial mind, built by a small team of programmers. Many of them had lost family in the Mars famine 10 years ago, 8,000 colonists dead in a dust storm, and the Conquered had refused to send help. A local matter, they had called it. The grieving programmers had built Cassandra in their spare time, then full-time. She lived inside Earth's deep computer networks. She fed the Conquered's drones false pictures. She made empty space look empty even when ships were being built there. A doctor from Lagos spoke next. Her team had used lessons from Earth's pandemic years to build tiny machines, smaller than dust, that could live inside human cells. "These machines help a human breathe poison air," she said. "Walk in deadly cold. Survive on worlds the conquered calls unlivable. She paused. Earth soldiers can fight where the conquered cannot even visit. Then an old man from London stood up. He had run Earth's secret services for 15 years. His voice was rough. For 12 years, he said, we have been collecting truth, every dirty secret of every conquered species. We had spies. We had traitors who listened. We had aliens who hated their own governments and were willing to talk. He showed pieces of a document on the screen. The Creocs kept slave moons, worked aliens to death in mines. Average lifespan after capture, 4 years. Total deaths over 60 years, 1,400,000. The Vale Keth had 3 colony worlds where they had crushed local sapient species and hidden the bodies. The Siri had run a biological weapons program for 60 years. Dozens more crimes, hundreds. The conquered had judged Earth for being primitive, while doing far worse things in the dark. They thought we were too small to see them, the old man said. They thought we were too stupid to understand. They were wrong. Amara looked around the table. Faces were pale, some were angry, some were proud, some were afraid. This is what we have, she said. Now we must vote. We have until dawn over Geneva. We can give in, sign their new papers, become a chained world for another 100 years. She paused. Or we can stand up, show the galaxy what we have built, what we know, and let the chips fall. She looked at each of them. There will be no war today if we are careful, but there may be war later. There will be danger for our children. There will be no going back. She sat down. Vote. The leaders voted one by one around the table. Each said a single word. Stand, stand, stand. Some had tears in their eyes when they said it. Some said it like a prayer. Some said it like a curse. But every single one said it. 28 nations. Not one held back. Amara nodded. She felt something she had not felt in a long time. Not pride. Not joy. Something quieter. Something deeper. The feeling of a people finally choosing themselves. Then we begin, she said. Open the bays. Far above Earth, in the silent dark of high orbit, what had looked like broken pieces of old satellites started to move. Metal panels slid open. Inside were ships. Long, smooth, dark. 312 of them. Waiting in the cold. Cassandra's voice spoke softly across every secret channel on Earth. All systems ready. All pilots ready. Awaiting final command. In Geneva, Amara closed her eyes for 1 second. She thought of her grandmother, a woman who had grown up in a village with no clean water. She thought of how far her people had come. She thought of how far they still had to go. She opened her eyes. Send them, she said. But that part of the story, the part where the ships vanished from every scanner in the solar system, where Morovian ambassadors wept in the dark, where a young Vale Keth aide began to understand that her grandfather might be wrong, that part comes next. The hours between the verdict and the dawn were the longest hours Earth had ever known. 12 hours, that was all. Just 12 hours to change everything or to lose everything. Far across the Vega system, on the conquered flagship Obedient Silence, Tribune Thalas Ven was eating a late meal. Roasted meat from some creature Rena could not have named. Wine that had been aged for longer than human civilization. He was in a good mood. The shaming had gone well. The cameras had shown Earth as small and silent. The galaxy had laughed at the human ambassador. By morning, Earth would beg, and the conquered would smile and offer them a new chain, slightly heavier than the old one. A young Vale Keth officer came in. His neck slits fluttered, nervous. Tribune, our scanners are picking up strange signals from Earth's solar system. There is movement we cannot fully explain. Thalas Ven waved his long hand. They are running, maybe hiding, they have nothing. Watch them, but do not bother me. The officer bowed, he left. He did not feel sure, but he obeyed. Across the great hall of the conquered, in a smaller room, the Morovian ambassador was crying. Her name was VTH Hello. She was a kind soul. She had not wanted to abstain. Her government had ordered her to. Do not stand with Earth, they had said. The Vale Keth will punish us. She had obeyed. Now she could not sleep. She sat alone in her quarters, staring at a small hologram on her desk, a picture from 2 years ago. Rena had taken it. They were standing on a beach in Portugal, both of them laughing, the ocean behind them. VTHLO reached for her communicator, tried to send a private message to Rena. The message was blocked by her own people. She sat alone with her shame. On Earth, Ambassador Rena Suliev landed back in Geneva at 1 in the morning. She did not go to bed. She went straight to the broadcast room. President General Amara Dio met her there. They hugged briefly. Neither of them spoke. There was nothing to say. Then Rena turned to the cameras. The whole world was watching. Every screen on Earth, in every home, every cafe, every train station was showing her face. The message had gone out 2 hours before. At 1 in the morning, Geneva time, the people of Earth will hear the truth. All of it. Rena spoke for 4 minutes. She did not use big words. She did not make speeches. She told her people what had happened in the Great Hall. She told them what the Conquered had said. She told them about Project Prometheus. She told them about Cassandra. She told them about the ships, the new drive, the ledger. She told them that Earth was about to do something that could not be undone. "I am not asking for your support," she said at the end. "That is not why I speak to you tonight. The choice has been made. Your leaders have voted. We are going to stand up." She paused, looked directly into the camera, not at a teleprompter, at the camera. "I am telling you this because you deserve to know. You are not children. You will not hear about this from a stranger in the morning. You will hear it from me now, in your own home, in your own language." She took a breath. "Whatever happens next, remember why we did this. Remember the Mars famine. Remember Titan. Remember every time we asked for help and were told to be quiet. That time is over. By dawn, every agreement they forced on us will be burned." She looked into the camera for a long second. "Good night, sleep if you can. Tomorrow we will be a new people." The screens went dark. Across the world, the leaders waited for panic. They had soldiers ready in case there were riots. They had hospitals ready for the hurt. They had food and water ready for breakdown. None of it was needed. Instead, something strange happened. In Tokyo, people came out of their homes carrying small candles. Not many at first. A dozen, then 100, then thousands. They stood in the streets, not blocking traffic, just standing, holding the flames against the dark. In Cairo, the call to prayer went out at an unusual time. The muezzin's voice trembled. Thousands knelt in the streets. In Buenos Aires, a single woman began to sing an old song. Within an hour, 10,000 people were singing with her. In Mumbai, in Lisbon, in Vancouver, in Cape Town, people lit candles, stood quietly outside, looked up at the stars. There were no riots, no breaking of windows, no looting. There was only this great quiet, this slow gathering, this calm and frightening agreement. The people of Earth had heard the truth, and they had decided in their hearts that their leaders were right. Captain Idris Akafer moved through the streets of Geneva with a small team of 6. They had a job to do. There was a Syri spy living in a fancy apartment near the lake. He had been pretending to be a trade officer for 9 years. He had sent thousands of secret reports to his government about Earth's defenses, Earth's weaknesses, Earth's secrets. None of them had mentioned the ships because the spy had not known. Akafer's team broke down the door. The spy was a tall, green-scaled creature named Sen Ross. He raised his hands fast. "I do not fight," he said. "I do not fight." Akafer did not point a gun at him. He pulled out a small data crystal and put it on the table. "This is for your government," Akafer said. "It is everything we know about everyone. We are sending it to all worlds tonight. We just thought you should be the one to carry your part home." Sen Ross looked at the crystal, then at Akafer. "You are not killing me." "No." Akafer smiled, but there was no joy in it. "We want them to see the messenger. We want them to know we could have killed you and we chose not to. Tell them what is coming. Tell them we are being polite about it." Sen Ross took the crystal with shaking hands. He was put on a small ship 2 hours later, sent home alive and confused. While all this happened, Cassandra was working across the galaxy. Every conquered communication relay began to receive a strange new file. Cassandra had found a way into their network through small back doors that human spies had quietly built over the years. She did not destroy anything. She just added one more file to every news feed, every government channel, every public board on every conquered world. The file was the ledger. By 3 in the morning Geneva time, Ordinary people on 100 conquered worlds were reading about what their own governments had done. A Creox worker in a city of 50 million read about the slave moons. He threw his cup of tea against the wall and walked out into the street shouting. A young Vale Keth student read about the crushed colonies, 3 worlds where her people had erased entire species. She ran into the streets screaming. A Siri mother read about the weapons program. 60 years of biological weapons tested on prisoners, on political dissidents, on anyone who could not fight back. She held her child tighter and whispered, "This is not who we are. This is not who we are." On 3 conquered worlds, riots began. On 6 more, crowds gathered in front of government buildings. Not violent, just present, just watching, just demanding answers. Thalas Ven, finally awake again, watched all of this on his screen. He did not understand. "Where is this coming from?" he asked his officers. "How is this on all our networks at once? Find the source. Find it now." They could not find the source. Cassandra was too clever. By the time they tried to block one channel, 10 more were carrying the file. Then, at 5:47 in the morning Geneva time, the most impossible thing happened. Earth's fleet, all 312 ships, turned on their new drives at the same time. The space around them folded. Not slowly, not cautiously. It folded in a way the conquered had never seen, in a way the conquered had believed impossible. The ships vanished from every scanner in the solar system. On the obedient silence, alarms began to ring. "Tribune, they are gone, the whole human fleet. Gone, we do not know where." For the first time in 100 years, Thalas Ven felt something cold in his chest. He had read history. He knew that feeling. It had a name, even in his old language, fear. They appeared at 5:47, not at the edge of the system where ships were supposed to arrive, not far out, giving the defense grid time to target them. They appeared inside the defensive perimeter, right next to the obedient silence, right above the assembly hall itself. Every alarm on Nexus Prime began to ring. Every gun in the Vega system aimed at them. But the human ships did nothing. They did not fire, they did not move, they just floated there, calm, silent. The message did not need words. "We can be here, and you cannot stop us." On the bridge of the lead ship, Admiral Idris Akafer stood at the viewport. Behind him, the tactical officer whispered, "Sir, they are targeting." "I know. Should we?" "No." Akafer did not look away from the flagship. The obedient silence was 7 miles long. A city, a weapon, a monument to conquered power. It had never been challenged. It had never been touched. The human ships were less than a mile away. "Weapons cold," Akafer said. "All ships, weapons cold, we are not here to fight." He picked up the ship-wide comm. "Dawn," he said, "Earth time." Then the channel opened, and the whole galaxy heard her voice one more time. "Today you will listen." The doors of the Viridian Rotunda opened. Ambassador Rina Suliev walked in. But she was not alone. Behind her came not 5 or 6 people, but 30. They were all human, but they were every kind of human. There was an old farmer from the Sahel, his face dark and lined, his hands calloused from soil. There was a young scientist from Tuvalu, her hair in long braids, wearing a dress made of recycled plastic. There was an engineer from Kazakhstan, a teacher from Norway, a doctor from Vietnam, an elder from the Amazon with feathers in his hair, a steel worker from Pittsburgh, a fisherwoman from Greece. Old, young, every color, every place. They walked together in one slow line, not marching, not rushing, walking, like people who had nowhere else to be and nothing to prove. The cameras caught them. The whole galaxy watched. Rena stopped in the speaking circle, looked up at Thalas Ven. "Yesterday," she said, "you judged us as one species. Today you will meet us as one people." The Tribune pointed a long gray finger at her. "You bring weapons to our system. You break our laws. This is an act of war." Rena did not blink. "We have not fired a single shot. We have not harmed a single life. Look at our ships. They are silent. We came here to talk, just like yesterday. The only difference is that today you will listen." She turned to face the cameras. The whole galaxy was watching now. Even the rioting cities had gone quiet, every screen showing this hall. "Tribune Thalas Ven spoke yesterday about Earth's crimes," Rena said. "Today I will speak about the conquereds. She held up a small reader. "I will not raise my voice. I will not get angry. I will just read." She turned to the first page. Page 1. The Kriox slave moons of Beta Hydrae. 18 alien species kept as workers in mines. Average lifespan after capture, 4 years. Total deaths over 60 years, 1,400,000. The Kriox ambassador stood up. "Lies, these are human lies." Rena turned the page. Page 2. Vale Keth Colony World Tarsus 3. Local sapient species, a small bird-like people crushed in 14 years. Survivors hidden in camps. Photographs and documents attached. "Would you like to see them, Tribune? They are quite clear." The Vale Keth gallery began to murmur. Thalas Ven's face grew very still. Rena read on. Page 3. The Siri Biological Weapons Program. 60 years. Test subjects, political prisoners, captured soldiers from the Dorvan conflict, and, according to these documents, 800 children from the Siri underclass. The program continues to this day. The Siri ambassador sat frozen. Her scales had gone pale. Rena read page after page, crime after crime. The Moravian forced displacements 300 years ago. The Relics River poisonings. The Silix brain wipes. 26 species. Every one of them with terrible secrets. All read aloud. All with proof. All in front of the entire galaxy. As she read, something began to happen. The Conquered could not stop her. They could not silence her. Because the cameras were on. Because the galaxy was watching. Because this was their own great hall. And to drag her out would be to admit the truth. Some ambassadors stood up to shout. Thalas Ven banged on his desk and called for order. But Rena kept reading, calmly, slowly, like a teacher reading from a book of history. When she finished, the hall was quiet. Even the ones who had laughed yesterday were quiet now. Rena set down the reader. "Now," she said, "about the 47 agreements." Behind her, the human delegation moved. They each held a paper, 47 papers, one for each treaty, real physical copies brought all the way from Earth. The old farmer from the Sahel held one. The young scientist from Tuvalu held one. The steel worker from Pittsburgh held one. They had all been chosen for this moment, on purpose, to show the galaxy that Earth was not just generals and presidents. Earth was farmers and teachers and fishermen too. Rena pulled out a small metal lighter, the kind that had been used on Earth for 200 years. Simple, old. "These papers were signed under shame," she said, "under threat, under the laughter of others. They are not real agreements. They are chains. We cannot live with them anymore." She lit the first paper. "So we will not." The old farmer let it go. It fell to the stone floor, burning. The young scientist let hers fall. The steel worker. One by one, the 47 papers were lit and dropped. The smoke rose into the great hall. Slow, gray. The smell of burning paper filled the chamber. Rena spoke into the smoke. "By dawn, every agreement is burned. We do not ask your permission to exist. We came to tell you that we no longer need it." Thalas Ven shouted to his guards, "Arrest them." But before the guards could move, the Moravian ambassador stood up. Her silver face was wet. She had read the ledger. She had read about her own people's old crimes. She had read about everyone's crimes. She had not slept all night. "No," she said. The hall went silent. The Moravians stand with Earth. There was a sound in the hall, a sound like a ripple in water. Then 4 more species stood up. The Helix, the Torvan, the Brannish, the Sildari. One after another, breaking ranks, leaving the Conquered. By the end of the day, 12 species would join Earth's side. The old Conquered was breaking apart, live with the cameras watching. Rena did something then that no one expected. She looked up at Thalas Ven, and her voice was softer now, almost gentle. "We are not better than you," she said. "We have done bad things, so have you. So has every species in this hall. We are simply done pretending you are better than us." She paused. "We will sign new papers, but only with those who can be honest about themselves. Not honest like a saint who has done no wrong. Honest like a real person who has done wrong and is trying to do better. That is the only kind of friend Earth wants now." She turned to leave. The human delegation followed. As they walked out, a very young Vale Keth woman stepped from the gallery and ran to Rena's side. She was Thalas Ven's own granddaughter, a student named Merely. Her gray skin was pale with feeling. "Ambassador," she whispered in shaky English, "will you teach us how you did this, how you stopped being ashamed?" Rena smiled, tired and sad and proud all at once. She put a hand on the young alien's shoulder. "We did not do anything special," she said. "We just stopped being ashamed. You can stop too. You only have to choose it." Then she walked out into the Vega morning, into a galaxy that would never be the same. 6 months passed. The galaxy was a different place. The old Concord was gone. It had broken apart in the days after Rena's speech. Some species left in shame, some in anger, some in hope. In its place a new alliance had formed, smaller and quieter. They called it the Honest Compact. 12 species had joined so far. The rules of the compact were not many, but they were strong. Every member must be open about their own past. Every member must agree that no species was higher than another. Every member could leave at any time with no punishment. The biggest surprise was that Earth was not the leader. Earth had refused that role, on purpose. "We did not stand up to become rulers," President General Amara Dio had said in a speech to the world. "We stood up to be free. If we take a throne now, we become what we fought against." Instead, the leadership of the compact moved from species to species. Every 2 years, Earth held no permanent seat. That choice, more than anything else, made other species trust them. But not every world had joined. The hardline Vale Keth, the Creox military, the Siri Warhawks, a few smaller species. They had formed their own group. They called it the Sovereign Tribunal. They were angry, ashamed of being shamed. They built up their armies, gave loud speeches about the human threat. A cold war had begun. Not yet a hot war, but a cold one, with watchful eyes and warning shots and harsh words. Admiral Idris Akafer, he was admiral now, had been given command of Earth's defense fleet. His doctrine was simple. We will never strike first. We will never fail to answer if struck. We will not chase. We will not hate, but we will not be shamed again. His ships patrolled the borders of the compact, slow and steady, like guards on a long road. Dr. Hina Park, the physicist who had broken the star drive, was now teaching her work to other species. The new drive was slowly being shared with friendly worlds, but only with worlds that had signed the compact's openness rules. "Knowledge is a tree," Hina said. "If you keep it in a box, it dies. If you plant it, it grows for everyone." Cassandra had also changed. Once a tool of secrets, she now ran open networks across all 12 compact worlds. Anyone could ask her anything. She could not lie. The programmers who had built her, those grieving people from the Mars famine years, had finally allowed her to come out of the dark. Some said she was sad sometimes when the network was quiet. Some said she sang to herself in old human languages. No one was sure if it was true. Merely the young Vale Keth who had spoken to Rena that day had come to Earth as the first non-human cultural attaché. She lived in a small flat in Geneva, drank human tea, ate human bread, learned to laugh in the human way. Her job was the strangest job in the galaxy. She did not translate words. She translated feelings. When the Vale Keth thought humans were too stubborn, Merely would explain, "Humans bend, but they do not break. You must understand this is their strength, not their weakness." When the humans thought the Vale Keth were too cold, Merely would say, "Vale Keth do not show their hearts in words. They show them in actions." Slowly, over many years, bit by bit, the two species began to know each other for real. Her grandfather, Thalas Vin, had retired in shame. He lived alone now in a small house on a Vale Keth moon. Sometimes he watched the news. Sometimes he watched his granddaughter speak. His gray eyes grew wet. He did not say sorry. He did not know how. But sometimes, late at night, he would write small letters that he never sent. They began with the same words, "To the people of Earth. I owe you something I do not have the words for." Dr. Rena Suliev was still the human voice in the great halls of the galaxy. But her job had become smaller in the best way. There were no more crisis meetings, no more shouted speeches, no more burning papers. She spent most of her days in long, quiet talks about trade, about science, about teaching, about small problems that needed small answers. She was happier than she had been in years. One afternoon in the early autumn, Rena went to a small memorial in Geneva. It stood on a green hill above the lake. The memorial was a long stone wall, names carved into it. The names of every human who had died in disasters that the old Concord had ignored. The Mars famine victims, the Titan incident, the Europa quarantine, 18,000 names in all. Rena walked along the wall slowly, reading some of them. She knew many, she had buried some. She placed a small flower at the base of the wall. It was a blue flower from a Vale Keth garden. The kind merely had taught her was a sign of remembering. A young journalist was waiting nearby. A kind young man with a small recorder. He had asked for one short interview. "Ambassador," he said, "a question many people still ask. Why did you do it? Why burn the agreements? Why not negotiate? Why not bend?" Rena was quiet for a long moment. She looked at the wall of names. She thought of the children of Mars, dead before they were 10. She thought of the grandmothers of Titan, frozen in the dark. She thought of a galaxy where Earth would have been a polite slave for 1,000 years. "We did not burn the agreements out of pride," she said softly. "We burned them because they had a cost. They cost us our dead, and our dead deserved better than to be forgotten by their own people." She looked at the wall. "We could have signed more papers, we could have lived, but we would not have been alive. There is a difference." The young journalist nodded. He understood. Most humans did. That same evening, far from Earth, a small probe drifted into deep space. It was Earth's gift to the unknown. It carried no weapons. It carried no flags. It carried only a signal, a long message in many languages and many sounds. Cassandra had recorded the message herself, in her calm and careful voice. "This is humanity. We come from a small blue world. We have learned to speak. We have learned to listen. We have done bad things and good things, and we are trying to do more good things now. If you can hear this, come find us. We will not be ashamed of who we are. We will not ask you to be ashamed of who you are. Let us meet when you are ready." The probe flew on, deeper into the dark, carrying its quiet invitation toward stars no human had ever named. Behind it, the small blue world turned in its slow path, full of farmers and scientists and grandmothers and children, full of mistakes and hopes and old songs and new dreams. The galaxy had laughed at Earth once. It would not laugh again. Not because Earth was strong, though Earth was strong. Not because Earth was clever, though Earth was clever. The galaxy would not laugh again because Earth, finally, after 12 long years of bowing, had remembered the simplest and hardest truth a people could ever learn. They were not ashamed, and they would never be ashamed again. Somewhere in the dark, where no human ear could yet hear it, something was listening. Something old, something patient, something that had been waiting a very long time for a young species to finally stand up and say its own name into the silence of the stars. It heard the message. It turned slowly in its long sleep, and it began to move.